Hey, I am Prasad Kompalli, founder and CEO of Mfine.
If you were to make a playbook of how to be a successful entrepreneur, then Prasad Kompalli's journey would very closely follow that playbook. He is a technologist with 8 patents to his name and has spent more than a decade with the German tech giant SAP. He then got some startup experience as the chief business officer at Myntra before taking the plunge into entrepreneurship with Mfine. Mfine started with the simple idea of allowing consumers to get access to the best doctors online and is today a full stack healthcare partner for consumers. In this deep and candid conversation with your host Akshay Dutt, Prasad shares the journey of building one of India's leading health tech startups and how they faced a near death experience, eventually coming out stronger and more resilient. Stay tuned and subscribe to the Founder Thesis podcast on any audio streaming platform to hear more such heroic stories of starting up and building resilience.
So aspiration was really that a lot of things can be done with computers, a lot of automation. I mean, towards the 96, 97, we started hearing about Infosys, of course, and TCS, etc. Then suddenly it started thinking that, okay, actually things can be built out for global markets, large scale solutions can be built. But actually quickly realized within 9 months that it's like a drop in the ocean, right? When we join such a company like TCS at that point in time. So left the company and joined a small, very small company that started operations in India, a German company which was doing Salesforce automation and things like that. Then kept on thinking about how to build large scale systems. And also what happened was that that company I joined was acquired by SAP, one of the largest enterprise companies. So moved to Germany in a more responsible role, spent time there almost like six years, 6.5 years or so in two stints, but came back beginning of 2009. But having said that, I also learned a lot. I mean, I grew pretty fast at SAP, learned a lot in the sense that how to large scale operations have to be run, large scale systems have to be built, mission critical software development and delivery and deployment, people management, multicultural, multinational, distributed development. So a friend of mine was a colleague at SAP and also he had a previous attempt at it to solve together with a professor at MIT to actually produce something basically will change the cost equation if you can produce that kind of technology in India, and capability of producing is there. So it was as an engineer, as a problem solver, it looked like yeah, everything is possible and we can do it and quickly build a prototype, and we thought that we can do this.
You're talking of the kind of devices that say GE or Philips build, like those kind of, which are used in hospitals.
It's actually implants, so even more specialized actually, like a cochlear implant, which it's like a neurostimulator. So it helps you bond deaf people to hear and things like this, based on certain conditions to be met medically and things like that. There are only 3, 4 companies in the world that are doing it well, right? These kind of devices, right? So pretty deep in that sense. See, the problem solving, the technology is the easiest part. Building the business around that product was all the cushion I had, right? When I was in a company like SAP. There are a few things that I've learned about the market as well, that entire ecosystem has to accept the price point. Entire ecosystem has to accept that this is something that they will also get benefited from. The doctors involved or the companies involved in between suppliers, etc. And the training that is required for the device post sales and all that stuff. So we understood that will take enormous gestation period for a implant like that to be built in India and delivered, etc., and to be accepted. And we were absolutely not ready in the way that we were imagining the company. We need a stronger platform support. Perhaps like a GE or somebody like that would do much better, or even as a strategic investor, we have to get somebody. So had a pharma company CEO committing to us as a early investment, probably that also blinded us a bit, that and did not uncover the problems for a while, because the funding was committed. So we were more focused on building spending time on what we are comfortable with, of building a prototype and things like that, but really not understanding the overall ecosystem. Around the same time, Of course, the internet commerce was taking off, and got in touch with Mukesh and Ashutosh at Mintra. And Mukesh was actually doing parallelly some consulting projects of technology architecture, etc. So one of the consulting projects, Mukesh said he was looking for some technology head as well for the next generation of Mintra's journey and things like that. So I said I can do some consulting. So started with consulting at Mintra. Then one thing led to the other, and the Mintra journey started there.
You joined Mintra in a revenue role, like your LinkedIn says you were chief revenue officer, whereas in SAP you were in a technical role, right? Like you were leading a team of developers. Like how did you make that transition?
I did the consulting project. That was again technical in the sense that what is a product roadmap, technology roadmap for Indra to be a successful, differentiated fashion e-commerce play in India of world standards, right? A lot of inspiration from world or companies. So the time Mukesh said that Shamik will do the CTO role, and he was looking for a pure, CTO who will go deep and build the systems from for the future, etc., and the deep expertise on building those systems. While because I was still consulting, ideally I would have moved on because there is a technology CTO coming in already. But in discussion with Mukesh, I also got inspired saying that can I do something different on the business side, right? For me, it was a different challenge, but it was not really that I could only do technology. Having gone through a startup and having seen some senior management roles at SAP, etc., I also felt that this is a good opportunity for me to extend beyond being only a CTO.
Essentially, it's like growth hacking was like the core focus, like using data to figure out how to drive growth.
Yeah, pretty much started like that. Like, and then digital marketing is an inevitable part, right? And then you'd be surprised. I set up the data science team for actually means we actually had a growth engineering team, which is different from the core engineering team as well, right? Which was doing productizing a lot of these things.
Okay, okay. Like helping to increase the average order value by suggesting that you may also be interested in this when someone selects something or showing similar items. And
Yeah. Start from there, recommendations to sorting logic or to sorting logic was in kind of recommendations as well. So in the way that the merchandise is appearing, things like some of the growth marketing to retention tools, etc., right? Communication, engagement tools, etc., increase the LTV. Pricing was a big deal to really optimize what is the optimal price between conversion and margins. The role expanded into looking into the entire category management as well, entire merchandising, supply relationships, marketplace versus inventory model, working with the brands, bringing new brands to the country, or working with the existing brands to increase the share of Mintra business.
and you were there during the acquisition by Flipkart as well. And I think post the acquisition also.
2014 was the acquisition. 2016 I left, so it's pretty much in the middle of my stint at Mintra that the acquisition happened. And no, I think my personal opinion, one of the very few large scale mergers, right, successful mergers, right, that succeeded in not only preserving value but actually increasing value for both Flipkart and Mintra, right, both the involved parties, right. But yeah, being in that successful merger and seeing through was learning in itself how to keep the focus, how to understand value creation, value preservation, and how to do things which are good from a core competence point of view on both sides.
So, what led to the birth of Mfine? Like, I mean, these are like very different domains, like from fashion e-commerce to health tech.
Yeah, I think that entrepreneurial bug was still there. Mintra was a good platform for me to just learn a little bit more on the consumer side and things like that. So I got very interested in fundamental transformations that technology can do, right? And of course, AI was coming of age, etc. Health was definitely on top of my head. The inherent nature of how technology can fundamentally change the way healthcare delivery can be done. Healthcare is a inherently data-driven business, devoid of technology as of when we started. So started thinking about it mid of 2016. Around the same time, towards the end of 2016, started talking to Ashutosh as well. Ashutosh was the co-founder of Nubla. So we actually traveled a bit. We went to China, Singapore, US, talked to few companies in UK. There is Babylon Health that was getting built up, like a chatbot driven doctor kind of patients and things like that. Or there was ADA in Germany. So there were pieces like telemedicine, and there are pieces that were there in different countries that is evolving. So we quickly thought that this is something that be super useful in a country of such an expanse like India, where infrastructure is not reaching, physical infrastructure, doctors are not reaching. So, and doctors are limited in number. So, and then we talked to, of course, few customers, potential customers, few doctors, hospitals, something like 50 odd doctors, 100, odd potential customers, like general users. Then the idea of Mfine shaped up. Yeah.
What was the original idea? Was it like chatbot, doctor consultation? Or-
No, actually, it was a little bit more abstract than that. So I personally, I'm a bit more abstract thinking than sometimes it doesn't work. That's why part of the reason why I was too soon excited about Indus Bionics was also because that problem at an abstract level sounds very interesting. So, but nevertheless, Mfine also was a little bit of an abstract idea. So my idea of Mfine was that, see, we have so much of mobile changes the life of people, and so many services are becoming consumer internet services. Can we imagine healthcare as a consumer internet service, or more broadly, even health as a consumer internet service? That means that it is streaming, it is always present. You can instantly connect. It's personalized for you, it knows you. You can access any service you want on demand, and make it as simple as a open the app, just tap on few things, talk to a doctor, tap on few things, get your medicine, tap on few things, get your test organized. So we found that this mobile and AI is a superb combination to actually solve this problem and make healthcare a very consumer internet service kind of thing. And from that abstract idea, of course, came in saying that no, we need to have a on-demand consultations, not appointment based, so that people can immediately go and get it. Right? Like any other internet service, on internet you don't go and take appointments for later, right? Particularly in health when you need something, right? So, and then for the being on demand, we created the AI bot, which basically can be available anytime and bridge the time between the doctor coming in and you logging in for a doctor consultation, and with data collection and pre-diagnosis, and the intelligence can be built in, right? So that was the idea.
So the version one of the app was around consultation. Like that was the initial focus.
Yes, yes.
And was it like an aggregation model where doctors could like sign up and as gig workers in a way?
Yes, we didn't do it with individual doctors. So work with hospitals, right, where the specialist doctors are, right, orthopedicians or cardiologists or even gynecologists, etc. So unless they believed in you that you are a good tool for them to deliver better care in line with their reputation, they wouldn't have come online, right, to us.
And built-in diagnostics and pharmacy also in version one, or that?
Yes. Version 1, strictly not. Yeah, version 1.5, we started showing option to do order test or order pharmacy, etc. So pretty much by 2019, we started having that feature as well. 2018 was the launch of V1. 2019 middle, we already started doing up this. Yeah.
How did you do the plumbing here in terms of pre-pandemic? I don't know if doctors were really that comfortable with a teleconsultation. So how did you get them to agree to really honor that? If someone has booked a slot, then the doctor should be there in front of the camera at that time. Building the plumbing for the data transfer, that if the doctor orders a test, then the patient can seamlessly book the test and the results can be sent back to that same doctor. If the doctor prescribes a medicine, that medicine can be seamlessly ordered and all of that. So how did you do all of that? Like that seems like the hard problem here.
Yeah, yeah. One of the hard problems was, as you are saying, the time adherence. When you go into Mfine today, you actually say you select the button called consult now, and then there is a AI bot that is actually coming in and collecting data. And at the end of it, within 15 minutes of that ending of that quick conversation with AI, you actually get the doctor, right? Of course, there was a push and pull with the doctors as well. Like, why should I do this? Right? Why should so even now on Mfine, 95% of appointments start on time, just on time, right? And the 5% start within 8 minutes of the same, within the 8 minutes of the given allotted time, right? So 100% starts within 8 minutes, 95% actually on time, and another 5%. So we achieved this over multiple things. The system is big for that, to take care of checks and balances, pre-check, sending notifications to doctors, getting it ready, sending notification to patients so that they come on time and things like that. From the beginning, said it's a consumer internet service that has to be on demand. And then, of course, work with the partners on the diagnostic side and pharmacy. We have not really scaled. We've been limited in certain pin codes, etc. We also felt that we needed to differentiate the pharmacy delivery experience to be able to be a reasonable player compared to already established. Pharmacy is a very entrenched play, largely capitalized players.
Why not just plug it with an existing pharmacy, e-pharmacy player? Like,
To be honest, I talked to everybody at that point in time for starting off, right? But at around that time, most of the pharmacy use cases were chronic patients, and medicine, when you order, it would come 2 days later, right? 36 hours, right? So because it was a chronic patient, it's not an acute patient. So, but the experience I wanted was different. The experience was that I do a consult, doctor order medicine, and it's kind of acute care in the industry terminology. So immediately I want the medicine next 2 to 4 hours, right? So that's why we finally built our own system and worked with our own partners who can do that.
okay, so you were like truly replicating the OPD experience. Like when you go to an OPD, you get a prescription and then you get it filled. That hospital itself has a pharmacy where you get it filled.
Right. And it was important for us that most of the use cases were that, right? They come, you bring your child, or you come yourself, you bring your spouse, or you bring your parent. Doctor says, okay, these are the medicines you should use. Sometimes doctors also says, use this medicine. One day later, if it doesn't improve, or 2 days later it doesn't improve, then we do the test. See, this is a very immediate kind of a use case, right? So those things were not captured by e-pharmacy at that point in time.
And your commercial engagement was with the hospital. Like you would you have an arrangement with the hospital that X number of doctors being available from this time slot and this time slot. Like there would be like a roster and those doctors would be available on Mfine app in that roster and you would manage the appointments for that slot which was allocated to them.
Yes, yes. Largely, we were working with the hospitals in the country. Yeah.
You are not paying a per consultation fees to them then. You're paying for the number of hours that a doctor is committing.
No, there was a commercial is based on consultations only. There is no minimum guarantee or business or anything like that. So for us, whatever we opened is a new channel for them, right? So it's incremental by definition.
For the customer in their journey, do they select the hospital chain or they select consult now and then whoever is available, they get.
I select the doctor in the hospital. I mean, doctor from the hospital is visible in the list. So it's always our list is sorted by the availability and the distance to you. So distance was again another insight that we said that it gives you just that comfort. And we were humble enough to understand that healthcare experience will involve offline as well at some point in time, right? We don't want to be one is we don't want to be like inadequate, saying the doctor says, no, I want to examine you. Then the customer has to look for somebody else altogether. Instead, if the doctor, if he can go to the same doctor, he or she can go to the same doctor, it would be better. People typically choose based on experience, based on specialty, etc. So that's how it runs up.
Would you monetize the offline transaction also if the doctor said, I want to examine you physically?
Yeah, there is a monetization
That can be booked through Mfine only.
that is a separate monetization on top of the online whenever they visit doctor or the hospital.
Okay. For a patient, it will cost them the same, whether they go through Mfine or they directly go.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So tell me the how you build traction for it, like on both sides, like building supply and building demand. Because even to build supply, the model would need some proof of concept initially, right? Because you're not giving any guaranteed payment. It is so you would probably need to show them that okay, this hospital is using it and they have these many consults happening through it and so on.
See, I think so few things worked like well because when you go to a hospital and talk, see, we went to the hospital primarily because we thought that it's important to bring top-notch specialist online. It will be a big differentiation. There is another underlying reason of when you talk to a hospital, it's a business decision and it's a strategic decision. Like I'm going through a digital channel, I'm opening a digital channel. They are not counting to at least my interpretation of this, like why it worked, right? They're not counting this hour, this how much they do count. Finally, they'll say, okay, is it taking off or not? But we'll have enough time to build that initiative from a hospital point of view, right? So it is not like immediately I get my extra patients or not. I'm not counting at the end of the day how many extra patients I've seen. And they're able to see that view. And secondly, they're also able to see that this is as an additional channel. Like now I'm present on digital, right? Even for example, somebody who's taking a second opinion for a surgery, I have a chance to convert into surgery, right? Which is a significant portion of my business. Right?
So essentially, for a hospital, their OPD is like a top of the funnel. Like if there are 1,000 patients walking in, 100 of those or 50 of those will get converted into more high ticket services, be it hospitalization or surgeries or procedures.
Absolutely.
Do you still remember the first account you cracked? Like, was it like a big sense of achievement when you
Yeah, it was in the sense that until then it was only in our heads, right? So somebody seeing the same point and saying, yeah, we would do it. And that too, we did it without even the first version of the product. Like, no, it was 70% PowerPoint and US framework and 30% some pieces running, right? So
Which one was it? Like the first account you converted? Oh,
well, first was RxDX in Bangalore. They still work with us. I think one more thing is the softer aspect is that when we talk to hospitals, institutions, CXOs of the hospitals, etc., we could align at a vision level. Right, it was becoming less transactional, more discussion about what can we do. Like these are the like they're also thinking about future growth areas, the future areas of healthcare in India. What is the trends, etc. We come from a technology background. We definitely attracted a bit of respect and for whatever proof points and pedigree that we had. So early success was largely based on that trust and that appealing to the vision of these visionary hospital owners and doctors, etc.
how did you tap into that network?
So that is like brute force. Of course, there were a few people we knew and we somehow got to know, but there was also like on the ground, me and Ashutosh used to take doctor appointments and go and meet without any trouble and just like really street smartness. That was the first, I would say 6, 7 months, something like that, or maybe even almost like a 9 months.
Like you would take an appointment with the head of department for a consult, and in that consult process, you would try and convert. Amazing. That is amazing.
But I think 9 months to 10 months into the business, we hired somebody from the pharma kind of who worked with a lot of hospitals and doctors. She changed the game on the relationship side. We don't come from that background, so we didn't know that. So, but he definitely helped, and slowly, of course, the team started building and building.
I'm guessing the economics of a digital consultation would be much better, right? Because you're not spending on nurses. In a physical consult, you need to have nurses, you need to have a cashier and all of that, which everything is now through AI and like through the app.
See, but the transaction value is small, the incrementality would be less. Thing is that two things. One is the volume has to be good enough. And secondly, there has to be let's say, LTV has to be better. A percentage of customers have to move to other services as well.
So once you signed up a certain, like a minimum viable size of users to have enough options in your app, then I'm assuming you would have done a launch, a go to market.
Yeah. So typical go to market was, of course, digital marketing and bit of offline marketing. Like we would show up at pharmacies, have our pamphlets or the bags that you get from those kind of things. Some of these hospitals were also forthcoming that to say that you can also consult us digitally on a
Put up posters in the OPD.
in the OPD, etc. Right. So it was not like it was like immediately scaling, right? It was like a lukewarm, slowly, because it was a lot of behavior change. See, what was interesting was that the use cases were like really reinforcing the belief in us that it's a matter of time. Like pediatric patients from about to take off kind of train or about to train was about to leave the station and the baby was like incessantly crying and the co-passenger downloaded the app and it was like unimaginable for us. It felt as if people needed it, right? And the marketing, I wouldn't say was the best ROI, but still because of this behavior change, etc. But however, there wasn't any other option, right? We had to keep pushing, keep showing up like this is fine, this is online consultation. Talk to your doctor in 60 seconds, talk to the reputed doctor and book your test and things like that, right? Everything happens on your phone. So we did spend a lot of money on marketing. Of course, then this was going on in 2019 and we launched other services like diagnostics, preventive health checks, e-pharmacy, etc. Second half of beginning of 2020.
Pharmacies and diagnostics, these were like through partnerships.
Similar partnerships, again, similar approach with a few national players and local players. Again, give a choice to the customer based on the distance and factors like immediate availability of the slots at home or even at the center. If you have to press scan or something. And systems were integrated. The reports will come to the app. Doctor can see the reports with the consent of the patient. Those experiences were taken care.
Like you would have integrated with the systems of like say a Lal Path Lab or a Arogya so that the data can flow, the booking availability, all of that can be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Systems were sophisticated enough. On the other side, we integrated where it was not. We used to give our system and they start to use our system.
Like a lab management software, you created a lab management software for the unorganized labs.
Not lab management. Lab management is more internals of the lab, kind of ER. But you can think about it as CRM, like booking an order, engaging and sending the phlebotomist or bringing phlebotomist samples back and things like that.
And so you were essentially doing like a hyper local. see. So like one pharmacy for each pin code, which could, and you would have some logistics partner like a Shadowfax or someone who would take care of the pickup and drop. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How were the numbers trending by then? Like, what kind of numbers were you tracking? Was it number of consults or was it like a revenue?
Yeah, it was more number of consults, something like few thousands we were doing every day,
This is by 2019, end of 2019.
in the 2019, and few more additional transactions, right? I think it was more like thousand concerts and maybe 300 additional transactions, something like this per day, something of that nature, around that number. Of course, then we also explored other customer acquisition channels, a bit on the corporate side, that HRs want to give these benefits to users. Very lukewarm, but like little bit, like maybe out of 1,000 we used to get 10 or 20 from corporate, kind of thing. One corporate agree and they won't take it seriously, kind of thing, at the early days.
Like they would pay for the consult for their employees, something like that.
Yeah, pretty lukewarm that time. And at that time, of course, yeah, March, COVID happened, right? So the things have changed pretty dramatically after that, right? So we immediately, of course, government started saying that telemedicine is important. They changed all the gray areas, etc., and that telemedicine is the way to go.
What were the gray areas earlier in teleconsult?
Not clear. It was made to be sometimes scandalous. Like, why are you doing this? And are you doing something behind the scenes? It's kind of things we need to explain, right? We're just an extension of the hospital and to the digital world and things like that, right? So those were all removed, right? Yeah, March 20th or 24th was the lockdown, right? And April first week, the guidelines were amended by the medical council, saying that we should do it, right?
You well capitalized? Had you raised funds?
Of course, we were.
How much had you raised by then?
By then, we already raised, I think, 30 odd million over 3 rounds. So we were okay. Well, I think by then we raised around 20 odd million. And then after COVID, 6 months into COVID, we raised again another 15. So
This is like a high burn business because like any consumer internet business which is trying to change behavior needs to do a lot of cash burn to like really make that behavior change happen and make it like a repeat behavior change and so on. So hence you needed a lot of money to for customer acquisition.
yeah, it's about building the market. So definitely needed that money. And to be very honest, without COVID, it was even more difficult, right, to change that behavior, right? So
Yeah, you'd have had to spend a lot more time and money.
correct. And even the distribution channels were not mature enough and things like that, right? So even if you imagine doctors or hospitals or any other source of distribution like corporate channel, etc.
What do you mean by distribution channel here? Sorry.
Like for example, like a corporate taking the product and giving it to their employees, right? Giving it in bulk, right? That's what I meant, right? Or hospital saying that I want to take this and give it to my patients, right? So it's not very mature in that sense, right? People are not doing it very proactively in that sense, right? Yeah, but after COVID, of course, things have changed. Government changed the rules, so providers became a bit more comfortable doing this, right? So and of course, there was no other way, right? With lockdowns and everything. So one thing led to the other. And initially in COVID, because of lockdowns and everything, and because of whether a lab is allowed to do this or not, RT-PCR, etc., kits were not available. So diagnostic business bit got hurt initially, but because also people are not going to the lab for any other thing. So, but then after that, diagnostic business taken off big time, right? It's opened up like crazy. Like I always say that COVID led to a lot of things. Like, for example, people understood that teleconsult can be done properly. Fairly complex situations can be handled. It's an important infrastructure piece for India to have, for healthcare systems to have, or policy to have, or consumers to have. Secondly, people became aware that testing is important. Knowing about your health is important, right? And it can be done at home. Testing has to be done, right? And one more interesting thing was that people realized that they need to know about their health. Like they have to measure vitals. Everybody understood oxygen saturation measure करना है, or lung strength measure करना है, or BP देखना है. Like you have to be serious about these things. Damn it, right? The last point was that people understood the health data and records. Why is it important, right? The vaccination, the language change, right? Now vaccination उनको मिलेगा जिसको comorbidities है. Then what is comorbidities? Like, where is my record when I'm a diabetes patient? Where is my record that I'm a heart patient? What are contraindications? And think, so I started realizing that, oh, bloody, I need my health records. This was all locked up in my hospital or somewhere else, or I lost it with paper. These are the four factors like teleconsult, diagnostics, vitals measurement, and data capturing. This has all become like very important. People have understood this large population has understood this. So we launched a quick chatbot saying that evaluate yourself whether you are having COVID or not based on whether you traveled or whether you are coughing, whether it's a dry cough. So the quick chatbot we launched based on what we have already, single infrastructure wise, and that took off really well. People really so. We had a data science team working on AI, etc., and the team has come up with the idea that we can actually implement algorithm, capture the PPG signal. It's called photoplethysmogram. So it's basically a standard technique of if you look at a pulse oximeter, you put your finger in it, basically throwing a light on it, taking the reflection of the light from the blood stream, and based on the variations of it, you can measure your oxygen saturation level. So then the team has invented or innovated that take the signal from the your finger, putting the finger on the mobile camera of a simple Android camera, a phone camera, if the signal is good enough, and they proved that the signal is good enough to measure SPO. That was fantastic, right? Kudos to the team. Kudos to I know all of us that who have contributed to that in the team. No, that was fantastic. That was basically while I believed in it that mobile has to become the central point of healthcare service. Seeing it in action was for me like it's like a step change. Until then, I was happy that with just a mobile I could get a doctor patient talk in a detailed way, the way I built it, not like just a video call. I could actually diagnose. I could do everything. I was happy with the diagnosis itself. Then now suddenly I saw vital being measured on mobile, right? So I was like drilled to pieces. Then of course the team now got the mandate and the research and wherewithal, and then they are excited as well. Now over a period of time, we launched heart rate measurements, pretty accurate. SpO2 is like,
And again, that also through the mobile camera on your finger, it can be
and then beginning of this year we launched around April we launched BP. We can measure BP now. It's
amazing. All through the finger camera on finger. Amazing. Okay.
Yes, PPG signal. So these are all based on thorough research, published papers, etc., which we implemented the algorithms of it, and we enhance the algorithms because the way that the techniques, etc., which are RIP. But not only that, we effectiveness of that has increased because of the data that we have. Because we can apply ML on top, and then actually the algorithm can improve and the learning can improve, right? So that improve over a period of time. So BP and fingers crossed, we will be launching even blood glucose level monitoring.
Blood glucose also without a prick. Like generally you need a
With the same PPG signal, so we should be able to crack it. So yeah.
and like geographically, do you cover all of India or like is it more on metros?
No, so see for the web services, if you look at it, consultation and these tools, etc., around 45% comes from non-metros, and obviously the physical services, hospital visits or the diagnostics, etc., those come more like 70% from metros. So, but idea is to expand it.
Okay. So for the non-metro, I mean, it would not be like finding a close by doctor, but it would be like solving an immediate problem that you want to consult. You can consult now.
Also some kind of expertise that probably is missing, right? Like, so there are hardly like even to detect a problem is so difficult in this country, right? So I remember actually there was a psychiatrist consultation we were doing for an elderly patient, and the doctor got a doubt and asked the patient's informer, both were on the video, to walk and show, see the gate. And he suspected something and he said, you should talk to a neurologist. And there are, I think last when I saw, I think around 1,700 neurologists in this country. That's it. They could talk to a neurologist on Mfine, and they actually suspect, and their suspicion was true that there was some issue in the brain, some growth, which is causing the problem in the gait as well. And they could actually get to the next step of care, at least, right? What they should look at next.
What kind of numbers do you do now? Like how many consults and
So we come back now towards we're now doing around 3,000 or so sales, but our mix has changed. We don't do digital marketing anymore. We do a lot of corporates right now. So a lot of corporate business has come after COVID, right? So
like the company would pay for every consultation, or they would like say that we'll pay part of it, or
they take a subscription and then say that so many consults per person, kind of per employee.
like a package where in a year you are allowed to 3 free consults or
So yeah, so we went almost like from 1,000 to almost like 10x during COVID. Obviously, it settled at a higher end. It didn't stay there, but it came down, but at a definitely higher level than what it was before COVID. And in the meantime, We also went through a restructuring. We are more focused on pushing towards profitability. We have a goal to become EBITDA positive by next year. So with the partnership with the joint venture with Lifestyle, so we gone into that direction where we can actually build own labs, own playbook service, own across all services like pathology, genomics, radiology, etc. So we realize that there is a experience differentiation we can bring, and of course economics are even better than just an aggregation. So in areas where it matters, we are actually owning up as well. So that's the direction that we are going now.
So tell me about this merger with LifeCell. What triggered it? And I would have thought probably the easier merger option would have been with the e-pharmacy player because it's purely digital integration. And like, what made you want to instead choose to merge with a diagnostics company with an offline presence?
Yeah, so I think, see, we explored all options, to be honest. So from the combination of some kind of comfort of working with Mayur and team, Mayur was an early angel investor in Mfine as well, by the way. Yeah. So that we know him.
Just give it some background of Mayur for our listeners who don't know about Lifestyle and Mayur.
Oh, Mayur runs Lifecell. He is the head of Lifecell business of that. The Lifecell is into what is called cord blood banking, and that's the core business. But they've expanded into other areas as well of therapeutics areas or genomics and things like that, and also a lot of specialized diagnostics in mother and child area. It started with cord blood banking. Basically, it's the storing of the cord blood when a baby is born, so that you can use the
Stem cells.
stem cells. You can use the stem cells in therapeutics when it's needed in specialized areas, and then they expanded into other specialized diagnostics and genomics, etc. That's the business he runs. So
And Lifestyle is like a funded startup. Like, what is?
it was funded startup, but it's fully profitable company.
What was the trigger to explore merger options?
The trigger was definitely a combination of our own roadmap and outlook from after 5 years of in the business, and more immediately was that the environment is definitely changing. So we definitely got hit by kind of we didn't expect the speed at which the things have changed in the funding environment. So we were in the middle of our funding round of next round, and definitely, and then things have changed pretty dramatically. We were getting the kind of funding where we wanted to get to. That was one trigger immediate.
But tell me one thing. You raised almost $70 million in the last 2 years, right?
First 2 years, we would have raised around 17 odd million, 20 odd million. And the next 2 years, we raised another 47 odd million.
Why did you need funds? Like you had raised a pretty substantial amount, like 48 million last, like about a year or so back. So
Yeah. Part of it was about a year, and then some branch came earlier. But yeah. So I think we still were betting on growing the marketing, as well as we were taking pretty deep bets into technology building upfront, right? So none of the things that I have talked about are possible without deep investments into technology, right?
and these are not monetizable also.
And not immediately, definitely, right? So, and it has a story of engaging the user and constantly being available for the user, and then building more long-term subscriptions for the user, etc. And it's not an immediate thing that you go take it and pay for it, right? So, and in the market, I don't think anybody else has similar solutions, etc. Right? So it took a long-term view that we have to build. We'll build this in a different way, and in the shorter run, we probably underestimated the amount of money to take to build the market purely by marketing to some extent, right? So could have done a little bit of alternate approaches of how to, we could have done, let's say, more aggressively on corporate earlier in our cycle compared to when we started. So yeah, corporate started more, let's say, more deeply for us beginning of this year. Could have gone a bit more aggressive last year itself. That would have given us the cushion of customer acquisition cost.
So do you regret spending on the product? Extremely cool features that you built up.
No, not at all. I think we could have, as I said, we could have done a bit differently was the way we built up our corporate channel, right? And we could have done a bit more differently on the way we built our margin structure or the structure of how we did our diagnostics business, etc.
But these products don't significantly move the needle for you, right? Like
So today, for me, within the first month of usage of a free tool, 25% of them are giving me a paid transaction, right? My engagement and app retention and engagement of app opening, etc., has increased by 3x after the tools were introduced, right? So, and acquiring users for a free tool is much cheaper. It's 10x cheaper than, or even 15x cheaper than acquiring for a paid transaction, right? So, and secondly, I'm addressing a larger market from an awareness point of view, wherein you may not be sick today, but you are okay to measure your BP or your SP2, SpO2 or etc. Or a woman, you are monitoring, you're tracking your periods, etc. Right. So these things, they have a significant strategic value and business value that is attributable.
And this is the reason why today you don't need to spend on marketing.
Yes. Today, everything is organic at this point in time. We will start to spend marketing in some areas, but we will actually market these tools on the paid transaction.
Which will be a lot cheaper. I mean, the cost of acquisition will be a lot cheaper. Putting the tools, right? Amazing, amazing. Just tell me about the capital and the partner deal. Is it like a equal merger or like what would the
So I wouldn't go into the details of that exact share and things like that, but yes, there is a coming together to create a large scale platform wherein we own significant parts of the value chain, particularly those high value and high margin kind of parts of the value chain like diagnostics and things like that. And we expand the digital footprint across all the services with Mfine. So lifestyle diagnostics has come in, we have come in, and we are also rolling up more diagnostic chains in all areas: pathology, radiology, diagnostics, etc. And for this joint venture, already,
you're acquiring regional players, regional, not so organized players.
yeah, the regional players, their own unique strength, etc., and bring them to this platform where all these digital capabilities can be leveraged for their growth and scale in the future as well. And consumer experience can be unified, improve, increase the effectiveness, etc. Now we can do much holistic care programs, like, for example, how do I take care of long term your chronic conditions and things like this? How do I do a lot more valuable preventive care with a combination of correlation of data of your imaging or pathology, biochemistry, as well as genomics? So, a couple of fundamental issues of improving of economics and customer acquisition costs, etc. Investment into technology, deeper ownership in high margin areas, and having sufficient capital to innovate. All of these problems are solved for us right now. So we are now actually really accelerating. So over the next 12 months, very exciting roadmap, almost like accelerating like crazy to become one of the top 5 platforms in the country, and then eventually in a couple of years become top 3 platforms in the country. Much.
How will you plug in the pharmacy gap?
We are also doing pharmacy now. So we have an interesting partner. We'll announce it soon, but we have an interesting partner with a large pharma distribution capability.
Like a offline partner or like a startup?
It's a distributor across offline distributor of pharmacies. So with already connections to nearly 60 to 80,000 pharmacies across the country, and top 120 brands of the country are already there as part of their network. So we are exploring some things which will materialize very soon. So
That will be the supply. Then you put in place, like you'll plug in logistics.
we'll build the retail experience. Yeah,
Ah,
absolutely.
right. Amazing. Amazing. Okay.
So that's what I said. It's a kind of a V-shaped thing, and we have got everything to become one of the top-notch platforms in the country. And I'm super confident of the technology. Now we are combining that technology with capabilities of real assets, both offline and online, both services and products. Right. So that's the forward the future going to be.
How did you feel at the bottom of the V? I'm guessing when you had to lay off about half of your headcount, that must have been like the bottom of the V, right? How was that period for you?
Good question. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough in the sense that, let's go back to my, as I said, right? I've always been successful, right? Not an outstanding success, not a outstanding failure ever, but this is like a kind of a setback, a bit of a setback. But major, because also I didn't like it at all that we had to take the tough call of laying off and readjust the cost structure and everything. The only thing that was important at that point in time was to stay afloat, make sure that, yeah, one is survive, and secondly, preserve, right, what we have built. We deeply believed in what we have built, right? So for survival, we didn't kill things that otherwise. So just few minutes ago, you said, right, I mean, these are not immediate value. Why are you building these things, right? It's very easy to kill those innovations. I mean, cost becomes paramount, right? But how do we find that balance, and how do we stay sane, and the reason for our existence and the purpose of this venture? And so I don't think it was a heroic act. It was a good enough effort, and to survive, take day by day as it comes.
So I want to understand what is the relationship between your GMV and how much you earn. Like your GMV in this case would be the consultation fees that you charge to a customer. So what is the relationship between the GMV and what you
The GMV is basically what the customer pays. And typically different margin structures for different services. So we have agnostics. When you're an aggregator, you are in the mid 40s kind of margin, but that will go up further if you're owning the lab itself, right?
But mid 40s is massive. I had no idea that the margin was so high.
And diagnostics is good. And consultation, we typically have, we are not a lead gen platform, so we are a more a consultation platform. So we get almost like about early 30s kind of margin. Pharmacy would be lower margin because we work with the retailers, the fag end of the chain, but which also will change now going forward. But yeah, that's roughly the question.
And what kind of top line did you do last year, or what is your top line target for this year? Or if you can share some revenue numbers.
What broadly I can tell you is that we reached a GMV of 40 million annualized beginning of this year. Part of that revenue came from different services, stopped them, we reduced the market, all that stuff. But overall, we are looking at next year to do slightly better than that. In fact, back to, but almost nearing the profitability. End of next year, getting to EBITDA positive.
Okay. You have a 5-day week.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like all days a week. So more or less, usually a bit relaxed on Sunday, but yeah, 6 days.
Okay, so let's frame it like this. So I want to understand from you about organization building. And you've been building Mfine for quite a number of years now. So what are some of those lessons that you can share with future founders about org building?
I think so. I think it starts from the premise that like building a company, entrepreneurship, etc., is a team sport. That I believe very strongly. It's not going to be an individual sport or a individual's heroic that we build a large, impactful company. If you were to build that, right? So if you're doing a hobby projects, may be different, but you're really building an impactful company with multi-faceted dimensions to multidimensional aspects of capabilities, culture, and everything. So you really have to have a team sport kind of attitude. Right? I also believe that sport is a better analogy than some organizations or some people talk about family and things like that. I believe that that comes somewhat in the business environment that is less relevant. The team is not a family team; it's a team sport, a sport team in the end. I think there is a lot of performance aspects, mutual accountability aspects, which are difficult to map to a family analogy. Typically, family is more about sacrifice and unconditional support and things like, yeah, those kind of things. But some of the aspects are irrelevant, but team sports, it's way more understandable, relatable for people. And that too, the younger generation, which is basically involved in building these companies and startups, I think that's even more relatable and understandable. And for me personally as well, that works better. Starting from that key mind, for me, I strongly believe that co-founder would be important. So that's how so for me is that if you have an idea, if you have some thoughts, etc., start with convincing at least one more person who has at least the same level of commitment, skin in the game, and excitement. So that's the first sales job, right? So as a CEO or a founder, so that's where it starts, and then you convince a lot more people, and not only convince but bring that same conviction in a lot more people, right, of what you believe. So yeah, that's how we built it. Me and Ashutosh started this, got excited about this, and started building some of the early teams, which is also from ex Mintra as well, and started building that around and built a larger team. Also, the initial team was very important, and so that they are like really can take them and have the same level of commitment to understand the market, understand the consumer, build the product that is unique, or build the company that is stands by certain values and approach, right? So that's the philosophy we followed. So one thing I've learned over the years, right? Like I worked in small companies, of course, big companies as well, multinational company. And what I learned is that you need to make also your culture and values are, I mean, largely influenced by the co-founders because their personality, their approach to things will definitely be right. That's one point. Second point is, unless you have really specific thing for your business, it will become a little bit meaningless and superfluous. So things like we have fun and we really love our customers, or like, these things are like very superfluous at some point and the overloaded terms, right? So what we really, at least I pushed personally into the organization, I try to push, I don't think we are perfect, try to live by that, is that what is important to build a good, large scale, impactful healthcare company and health tech company, right? That's how we identified what is important for us as a competency, as a kind of a overall competency framework that we built, as well as what is the kind of behavioral pattern, right? Cultural behavioral patterns, right? So this thing about a team being always cross-functional. So we always felt that we have to be as much a healthcare company as a tech company, as an operational excellence company.
How do you structure the company? In like you would have like say a product team, right? Like, but what would be different?
We have functions. Functional expertise is what works, but most of the deliveries and most of the projects are all combination of business person, product person, engineering.
So basically, people align around projects, and therefore it is a multifunctional group of folks who align around a project.
And not only that, I want people to look laterally to find teammates rather than vertically in deep organizations, right? The reporting line is not your team, right? It's actually in a football analogy, the one that you pass the ball to is your team, not the person that you're coaching to be a better expert at, right? So that's always the idea. I also believe that people have to have deeper personal connection to the goals in the organization, achievements in the organization, right? And whatever they're building for themselves, whatever they're building for the company or for themselves have to be kind of aligned. We have a support policy for higher education.
You fund people's executive education.
Yeah, at least we set up a catalog. HR works on a catalog of interesting courses that people can do while at job.
So I want to understand, as a founder, do you like change your mode of working when you transition from that 0 to 100 employee headcount, from there when you transition to 100 to 1,000 employee headcount? Like probably in the 0 to 100, you would personally be doing a lot of hiring, and you would be approachable to everybody, and probably you would personally be setting goals and being part of project conversations and so on. How does that change once you cross 100 headcount and you from that 100 to 1,000?
Yeah. So yes, I think there is that transition definitely. So you need to build a larger team that can actually pretty much do the same thing that you would do, or maybe even do better than you would do, right? So I do come from experience of both working small companies as well as large team setups as well, right? So I do understand that being a second time founder as well as being coming from a larger executive role in a larger company, multinational company, I do understand that transition. I believe I understand. So I think that has been relatively smooth for me.
So I wanted to ask you this. Now that you've merged with Lifecells diagnostic business, would you continue to be the CEO? What is the equation going forward?
I think for the foreseeable future, that's what we're looking at as Mfine, continuing as an organization with the capabilities on tech and digital and bringing the entire platform under this tech platform as well as brand and supporting all the consumer journeys across and offline, and consumer channels as well, B2C and B2B2C, etc. So that continues to be the case. And there is a significant role of play of multi-organizational acquisitions and build up, etc. So I think it more would look like a conglomerate as we go along. And me and Ashutosh are part of board of Lifestyle. So that's where it's all converging into a kind of execution structure or a, so to say, end-to-end view of the entire company.
So what the Baiju's approach is which is also like doing a roll up of tech companies. So this would be like to acquire more companies in the diagnostic space, or also in other spaces.
There are multiple areas. I think we will announce it next quarter or so. Diagnostics is one across diagnostics like pathology, radiology, genomics, etc. And InsurTech has a big area as well for us. Some tech acquisitions also would be there where we see good technology that actually can scale, joining hands with some care areas like care programs like chronic care management, etc. So that multiple areas that we are looking out more openly towards simulating those capabilities.
And you want to go beyond India also, or you want to be India focused initially?
Yeah, initially, yes, beyond India, but we won't say no to beyond India. I mean, like, there's opportunity everywhere. That was one of the things that when me and Atul also started Empire, I think that it's a very universal topic. We can bring a lot of things we have done innovations wise are relevant also. So, yeah, even some of the capabilities now we are acquiring will be also relevant abroad as well.